Okay, this is taking me a few days to work on this demo. Um, I've been wanting to do them very quickly, but this one I took time with. I redid it maybe 3 times, looking for better solutions. Um, so I made a portrait. This is Chynna Rogers. She just passed away last week. She was a rising star in Philadelphia in the hip hop scene. So I saw that headline and I thought, well, let's do a tribute portrait to her. And she had a nice face, so it was a pleasant portrait to attempt. Um, and I think the goal of this was, and the goal of it for me is to find out if you could actually do a sculpture with spheres. And I think doing a likeness is the best way to find out how accurate you can get just modeling with spheres. And I think you can get very accurate. And I think the more practice you have with it, the better you get with it, of course. Um, in this particular piece, I started out just putting the spheres on to get the overall form or mass that I needed. Um, what I eventually did was I went back and I illuminated uh, spheres that I didn't need. So that meant that I'd have to reshape other spheres to make sure that it was um, doing the job. So if I had three spheres in one place, say in the cheek area, I tried to eliminate two of them and just have one sphere do the job. And that's really the way to do it. So I think the better you get at it, the more control you have over just using what you need. Um, so yeah, I redid it, I revised, I went back into it. Um, there's later stages in it that were giving me problem, and that's what I kept going back. Um, what I really wanted from this is I didn't want to have a pretty decent representation by the spheres and then undermine it by kind of eliminating all the work, the hard work that went into that and just resculpting it. So I wanted to have something that I could work with. That's the tricky part I'm still working on. Um, but I think I've got it figured out. So I'll do a few more of these and just keep trying to get better at it. See here, I took it into Mesh Mixer to kind of test it out to see if the forms were working. Um, it gave me trouble with the eyes. I wanted to have eyelashes and really have detailed eyelids, but it didn't want to pick up that information on the low res uh, version of solid in Mesh Mixer. So I ultimately had to go to the accurate high res version of making it solid, which was not what I wanted to do. So maybe I still have to find the right app to control that area, but um, that's not a big deal. Um, yeah, I think what I learned from it is I definitely have an idea of how to construct the nose, which I think stands really well. Um, the mouth and the eyes, those areas I figured out pretty well. The ears, I'm still trying to figure out an elegant solution. And an elegant solution is what you're always looking for when you're making art. And what elegant means usually is some kind of gracefulness and simplicity. So the more complicated it is, the less elegant it is. So if you could do it with the less amount of effort and it maintains a certain gracefulness, that's elegance. So here I'm just testing them, going back and forth, and I was testing out making the resolution higher to see if I could pull up better detail in the mesh mixer. Here this is where I'm eliminating unnecessary spheres. And that was I think that's a very important aspect of the process, is you rough it out with probably a lot of spheres, and you go back in and revise and eliminate as many spheres as you can. And so some spheres are put in place to just kind of like give you a context for the next sphere, and then you can eliminate it. Um, yeah, I wish I'd discovered this technique of sculpting before. I think this is the probably the best technique for sculpting digitally, and it is very similar to sculpting with clay, in that when you're working with the clay or wax, you're modeling, you're taking little pellets, little balls of clay or wax, and you're adding it in a way that is not too different from this. So this approximates that quite a bit. Um, yeah, it's a little difficult to control. Um, that just takes practice. And it's not like you're in a rush. I mean, it goes quick enough. It's not like it is a very tedious uh, thing to do. But I think starting out the skull, yeah, start out with the skull. Um, and this one, I manipulated the skull. I knew that the skull that I had wasn't going to be the right skull for her head. So I started out making sure the skull was probably going to fit. I pushed the nose back a little bit, uh, pushed the profile back in various places. Um, so that's probably a very important thing to start out with. So here I'm just testing out the next step. I don't think this was the take I took. I just wanted to see how it would go. All right.